What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joshua Freeman, and welcome to Joshua vs. Movies in Depth, where I go more in depth with the rating I give to movies. Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace enters the ring this week as it came out in 1999. The genre of the movie will be action adventure, while the visuals and the stunts represent how well the visual effects and the CGI looks throughout the movie. If you guys want to see my initial reaction to this movie, it will be at the end of the video. But I think we're all set, so without further ado, let's go in depth. The action adventure in the movie deals with Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi trying to protect Queen Padme, which ultimately leads them to the planet Tatooine, where they discover a young slave named Anakin.
You're a slave?
I'm a person and my name is Anakin.
They then enlist Anakin's help to get off the planet. Overall, the adventure part in the movie does have some good moments. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi coming across Anakin is a good inclusion in the movie, but in the end, the adventure ends up being average due to plot conveniences that allow for the movie to continue. First, them being able to even get to planet Tatooine through a blockade is kind of luck. And second, Anakin actually winning the race when the other characters actually need him to is convenient, especially since he's never finished the race before now.
I'm sure you'll do it this time.
Do what?
Finish the race, of course.
You've never won a race?
Well, not exactly.
Not even finished?
Also, Darth Maul taking a day and a half to find the Jedis after saying,
Tatooine is sparsely populated. If the trace was correct, I will find them quickly, Master.
not only helps them escape, but also extends the movie even longer. And when it comes to the action part in the movie, even though it does have some good moments, it also ends up being average. The only real compelling action in the movie is the scenes with the Jedis fighting Darth Maul. And also the pod race isn't bad either. But that's really all the good action the movie offers. And in the end, it doesn't end up being enough. Aside from that, the action with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fighting the robots doesn't end up being that compelling at all. So with that, the movie earns a 0.3 out of 0.5 for action adventure. And when it comes to the visuals and the stunts in the movie, they end up being average as well. The visual effects and the CGI doesn't look bad for a movie that came out in 1999, but there ends up being too many scenes where the visual effects look obviously fake, from Jar Jar and his people to numerous other shots throughout the movie. So with that, the movie earns a 0.3 out of 0.5 for visuals and stunts. But when it comes to the directing, those same artificial shots in the movie is what hinders it. George Lucas does a good job extending the world of Star Wars with the creative civilizations and also capturing as much detail as possible when it comes to them. Lucas also does a good job incorporating some beautiful shots in the movie, such as the one with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan talking about Anakin during the sunset. But there are also many shots where it looked like the actors are in the green screen room. Also, the close-up shots with the action between Darth Maul and the Jedis doesn't help the viewing experience for the battle. But overall, the directing does still end up being above average. So with that, the movie earns a 0.6 out of 1.0 for directing. And when it comes to the plot and the story, overall, it ends up being average. What works for the plot and the story is the inclusion of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan running into Anakin and him being recruited by Qui-Gon. The movie also does well with the inclusion of Darth Maul, even though his appearance is short-lived. What hinders the plot and the story, though, is numerous plot conveniences and the questions that the movie leaves. This first episode of Star Wars provides the perfect opportunity to explain the power of being a Jedi and how that compares to the other beings in the universe. But instead, the movie focuses on a Trade Federation plot point that doesn't end up being all that interesting. Not to mention the bad guy needing the Queen to sign a treaty to make his invasion legit. To be honest, if he's so evil, why does he care about the treaty? Isn't he evil? Also, Yoda is skeptical about letting Anakin train to become a Jedi.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I sense much fear in you.
But wouldn't it have been better if they taught him to look beyond his fear, especially if they feel he's the chosen one? But there are numerous plot conveniences that are in the movie that allows for it to continue, such as Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan arriving at just the right time to save the Queen, Anakin actually winning the race helping Qui-Gon, Darth Maul taking so long to find the Jedis and then giving up prematurely, causing them to get away, to Anakin actually surviving and actually blowing up the command center during the third act. And in the end, the only real explanation ends up being the Force.
Where is it going?
Don't worry. The Force will guide us.
But if the Force was even remotely explained in the movie, it would have actually provided better justification, but it's not explained. So in all, the plot and story has potential, but in the end, it ends up being average. And that's thanks to the numerous questions and plot conveniences. So with that, the movie earns a 0.5 out of 1.0 for plot and story. And when it comes to the actors and the acting, they end up being good in the movie for the most part. Liam Neeson is great in his role as Qui-Gon, and Ewan McGregor is good as Obi-Wan as well. I also like how the movie showcases the difference between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan when it comes to the trust in the Force. Also, Natalie Portman is good as Padme, and Jake Lloyd is entertaining as a young Anakin Skywalker. The only thing that hinders the actors in the acting, though, is the inclusion of Jar Jar Binks. He ends up being annoying throughout the movie with little purpose.
If you race bombs, don't do that again.
And his inclusion only serves as a way to move the plot and the story along. I mean, without him, they probably wouldn't have gotten to the Queen at just the right time to save her. And because Anakin helped him when he got in trouble, they ended up going back to his house and talking about pod races.
Has anybody ever seen a pod race?
Aside from Jar Jar, though, all the other characters are good. So with that, the movie earns a 0.9 out of 1.0 for actors and acting. And when it comes to the score, it ends up being the best thing about the movie. John Williams managed to incorporate a great score that ends up propelling scenes in the movie to new heights. Specifically, the score during the fight with Darth Maul is iconic. So with that, the movie earns a 0.2 out of 0.2 for score. Okay, so if the editing of the movie remains a 0.3 out of 0.3, then we have all the numbers. So let's see where it fits on the scale. So if you add them up, the movie ends up with a 3.1 out of 4.5, and that gives it a B rating. So there you guys have it. That's my in-depth movie review of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. In all, the movie ends up being slightly above average. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, and also let me know which movie you want me to go more in depth with. But this is Joshua Freeman. This has been Joshua vs. Movies in Depth. I'm going to see you guys in the next match.